Nothing too crazy. So,
Nice.
How about you?
Nice. Well, something crazy just happened about an hour ago. I got to go do a taping on Good Morning America. There
you go.
Good Morning America. It was crazy. No, so it they just reached out and like, hey, we're doing a story on travel surge coming up. Everybody wants to travel. Everybody's booking their summer flights. Can you come on and comment? So I was like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
You don't say no to that. And let me tell you, it was fun, exciting, nerve-wracking. The funny thing about like taping a segment for somewhere like Good Morning America, I got to go on NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt a week or two ago. Yeah. The funny thing about doing that is for these pre-recorded segments, you're just basically talking with a producer for like 20, 30 minutes. They're basically, talk about anything you can think of, talk about, travel surge, where you're seeing deals, are those deals going to last? What about vouchers, this and that? And you're just basically talking at them as much as you can. And then what they do is they take, this 25, 30 minutes of raw footage and they just pick out, all right, let's see if we can find like 5 or 10 seconds where Scott sounds like coherent and cogent and says something actually interesting. Yeah. And that'll be for the clip. So it's like, on the one hand, you're feeling like, oh man, I spent all this effort for like a 5-second clip. On the other hand, you're like, well, I'm glad they cut out all the stuff where I sounded horrible. Like you all in the audience are saints for putting up with me for 30 minutes. It's nice that they really just kind of like drill into what's the meat of the situation.
Yeah. That's super exciting. I mean, it's a 5-second clip here, 10-second clip here. You're just getting started, Scott. I mean,
it's such a different experience, I'll tell you, doing these pre-recorded segments than doing live TV. Live TV, that shit is nerve-wracking. Let me tell you. Anyway, we'll save that discussion for another time. I think folks are more interested in hearing travel updates, where's open, what sorts of deals are happening. Let's get to folks' questions. We can have a discussion next time about my particular thoughts and experiences on TV.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I mean, by the time we have that conversation, I wouldn't be surprised if you have a few more huge network shows under your belt. So,
gosh, it is. It's a bizarre world. If you had ever told me, oh yeah, you're gonna be on Good Morning America one day talking about travel, I'd be like, oh my god.
There you go. But yeah, let's get into our questions. Ali Reza says hi. Lana says hi. Scott says, wait, what? That's awesome. And Liz says, Good Morning America. That is amazing. Yay. So a lot of support here for you, Scott.
I appreciate you all. I thought, look, I'm someone, folks may not know this. Actually, I'm like a little bit sheepish. I don't really like talking about myself for good news. I do feel like excited to be able to mention like little pieces of good news about this to you all, because you all are awesome. You all are like my little support group. I appreciate you all so much, and it's nice to be able to bring good news to a group of folks that I think will like to hear it. So
yeah, that's true. There you go. And speaking of support, Allison, one of our good friends, Allison. I actually was able to speak with Allison last week.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was super exciting. So, but yeah, Allison asked or says, hi guys, how long have you waited in the past for the Department of Transportation to react to a complaint? After this negative experience with TAP, I'll never fly them again. I have called them now 26 times, filed 2 complaints with the airline, and have filed a DOT complaint. Their customer service is atrocious.
Couple things to know here. First of all, damn, I'm really sorry to hear that, because that stinks. And I've been in sort of similar customer support nightmares like that. It is no fun. In terms of what to expect normally from the DOT, and frankly, what to expect normally from the airline, everything is a little bit different right now because of the pandemic. If you look at the number of complaints that went to the DOT starting about this time a year ago, it just, went from like basically, 50, 100 complaints a month to like 500, 1,000. It like easily overnight went 10x. And it's not as though the Department of Transportation all of a sudden had 10 times more employees to be able to handle that volume. And so it's gotten a lot slower in terms of trying to process that, in terms of trying to make sure, do enforcement with the airlines, pass along your message. So it's not terribly surprising, even if it's unfortunate to hear that it's going a lot slower than we'd like it to. In normal times, you can usually expect the DOT to, forward your complaint along to the airline and demand they do something about it within a couple weeks. Now I'm hearing more anecdotally, a couple months is more along the lines of what it's taking. If, calling them 26 times, if they're really not playing ball, they're not giving you the refund that you are very rightfully owed here. You always have the option of filing a dispute with your credit card. If the airline charges you money, won't refund that money, and doesn't provide the flight that you bought, it's a very clear-cut situation where you can dispute the charge. I like to leave that as my last item. Of course, I like to try to go through the official channels first. But if they're not budging and the DOT is taking forever, then I'm not scared to be able to call to the bank and dispute the charge if need be. But man, my sympathies. That I hate being stuck in that situation. So I feel for you.
Yeah, I mean, last week when we were actually talking about this, you were saying that it sounded like it may be a situation where the customer service representatives may have some wiggle room compared to just across the board policies, but it does seem like this is becoming more of an across the board policy, like you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rule. That's just a general rule of thumb for the industry. If you get a customer service agent who's not being helpful, who's not giving you the outcome you're hoping for, rather than trying to convince them, hey, you're wrong, change it for this reason or that, your best bet is usually be polite. Thanks, appreciate your time, hang up, call again. And you're going to get patched through to somebody new. Sounds like they might be overloaded if you're having to call 26 times. Maybe they're not actually answering their phone, or huge long waits. But in general, that is a good rule of thumb for dealing with airlines, especially a situation where they might have some amount of discretion, the agent, to be able to get a good, the refund, flight change, whatever.
I laughed a little at this comment. Shanice says, I fly with TAP often because my family is in Portugal, but the family joke is that TAP stands for take another plane.
I like how every company with with either a short acronym or a short name just has the haters and distractors that rename. So I think of Ford, fix or repair daily or whatever, other type of thing like that. Yes, it is. I know there are a lot of folks who have less than stellar feelings about TAP. The funny thing is, it's a totally fine and serviceable and frankly good airline when you're actually on the plane and when you're actually on the trip. And their fares are really, really low. It seems like it's the customer service aspect and their kind of, obviously, I wish they hadn't canceled those mistake fare tickets. I wish they'd honored them. I think their customer service department leaves something to be desired, even if other aspects of the airline are, perfectly adequate.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely goes to show you what you've said many times of why would airlines honor mistake fares if they're able to just take it back and say no, sorry, we won't give you these tickets. Why would they ever say yes? And I mean, I think even just our conversations here, we've seen a lot of people TAP is, not doing the right thing. Air Canada is not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Next question comes from AD. My question is, can I get on a flight from the UK to the US?
Generally, yes, not necessarily as a tourist. I have to go back and look at the exact restrictions right now on U.S. travel. If you're a U.S. citizen, absolutely, you can come back. You will need a negative test before your return flight within 3 days of your return flight. So no question about that. If you are a UK citizen or something else, I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. Most of my sort of working knowledge of flight and travel is admittedly kind of US centric.
Jeremy asks, I have a flight scheduled April 24th to Tokyo from Memphis, but Japan isn't allowing Americans, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, they are not. And a month or two ago, I'd had some optimism that maybe they would open up by late spring or summer. I'll talk in a little bit why I'm actually getting a little bit more optimistic about some parts of Europe, but my optimism about Japan and other parts of Asia is not good. They recently announced, Japan did, that they're not going to be allowing overseas fans in for the Olympics, which are happening end of July, early August. And if they're not allowing overseas fans for that, I think that, the likelihood of a summer vacation to Japan is not very good. I would expect it to be more like a fall reopening, that's when they're going to be allowing tourism in again sometime, maybe October would be my best guess with a wide range of confidence. I don't think April is going to happen at this point, unfortunately. The good news, again, is basically all bookings right now, you can change your dates. The airlines have said they're not charging any penalties if you change your date. So you can push that trip back to, let's say, October, November, whenever you think you might want to travel, and hope that by then things will have opened up. And if not, you can just push them back again.
Yeah. You did bring up Europe a bit. Susie asks, when can we fly from the US to Scotland?
Yeah, great question. So there's been a lot of news on this front in the past, really just the past week or so. So a week or two ago, Greece announced they're hoping to allow all international, maybe not all, but most international tourists, including Americans, in by May 14th. And either showing proof of vaccination or even just showing a recent negative test. Greece is obviously a country that's very dependent on tourism, and thus really hoping to be able to get as much of that summer travel season uptick as possible. Scotland, part of the UK, is in a situation right now where the government has laid out a timeline that May 17th is when they're saying is the earliest of possible date for international travel to resume. But it's a little bit unclear to what extent either, they're saying like people in England and Wales and Scotland and whatnot can travel overseas and come back and not have to have like a mandatory reason why they were doing that. You can take vacations again. It's not 100% clear yet if that resumption of international travel will also apply to foreigners hoping to visit Scotland, England, elsewhere. So still a little bit to see on that, and whether or not you would need to do a negative test or show just proof of vaccination or whatnot. Right now, you can go visit the UK, but I think it's a 10-day quarantine that's required. So obviously for most folks, it's not really reasonable, something that you can do for a vacation. But the other news on this front, two other things I'll note. Iceland just announced yesterday, I believe, that they were allowing international tourism again starting tomorrow from places in the non-Schengen zone. So this is like a certain number of countries in Europe. But the important part is that they're saying, yes, Americans are allowed back in if you can show proof of vaccination. So expect that tourism to Iceland to be picking up here again very, very soon. And then the last thing I'll note on this front, travel between the US and Europe, the EU has been meeting weekly to talk about these sort of vaccine passports. How do we get international travel open again? And they announced today, essentially, they are going to try to move forward with what they're calling digital green certificates, not necessarily requiring proof of vaccination, but showing either that you have been vaccinated, that you've had a negative recent test, or that you have the antibodies maybe from a recent infection, and that will allow you to be able to travel internationally within Europe. Where it gets a little bit tricky is, so far, again, they're still fleshing out the details. It seems mostly targeted just at other EU nations. So, travel between, let's say, France and Belgium, or, Italy and Spain. What is unclear, though, is, let's say, us as Americans, we're hoping to travel to Europe this summer. Will we be allowed in? Will we be a part of that? And my best guess at this point is that the answer will be yes at some point in the summer, but a little bit unclear about when in the summer. I think a place like Greece and Spain are far more likely to open up sooner. Greece has already said May. Spain has said something similar. Possible that those will open by May or early June. By July or August, I think more countries will be open. So if you haven't booked your flight yet and it's all equal to you, I would book later in the summer for a trip to Europe rather than earlier in the summer. I think the odds of being able to visit Europe as an American are going to be a lot higher later in the summer. But everything's written in pencil right now. And this is why having that flexibility built in automatically, being able to change your dates without any change fee like the airlines are offering now, is so key, because you just don't know for certain yet what the reopening dates are, and even if they are announced, whether or not they'll stick. But I'm feeling cautiously optimistic still about travel to Europe this summer. A week ago, I was feeling a little bit more pessimistic. Now I'm starting to feel a little more optimistic with the EU putting out this digital green certificate thing, and with places like Spain and Greece really trying to do their best to move forward. So it might, it's not necessarily that every EU country will be open, but at least I would imagine at least a few of them will be for Americans this summer.
Yeah. Next question. This is not something I have too much knowledge about, but maybe you do, Scott. So Sarah asks, I have a question about traveling with a lap baby under 2, called to book tickets and told the lady about my baby, but she has no ticket number. In the past, I've always gotten a ticket number for her. Is this okay, or should we definitely have a ticket number for her?
Yeah, great question. I have a young daughter myself. She aged out of 2 during the pandemic. I had so many trips planned for last year to try to still take advantage of the free lap infant, at least for domestic flights, if they're under 2, that fell by the wayside. But what I would do, the policies vary significantly airline to airline, both in terms of what's required, what shows up on the ticket. Usually what I see, oftentimes what I'll see is that the lap infant is associated with one of the existing adult tickets. So, maybe my ticket will say Scott Kai's, and then it'll say traveling with lap infant, and just to have that printed on my ticket. But the policy is going to vary airline to airline. Some will, like you said, have their own ticket number. Some won't. What I would do if I were in your situation, because look, the worst, the situation you obviously want to avoid, apologies for the truck going by. The situation you want to avoid, obviously, is showing up at the airport and being like, oh no, we don't have a ticket for our daughter or our son. Like, what are we going to do? What I would do basically is I'd just call the airline again and just confirm with a new, if one agent tells it to me, I always have to wonder, like, maybe they don't know the policy, maybe they were misinformed about it. If 2 agents tell me the same thing about the lap infant, then I feel, okay, that's the policy. I feel good. I feel fine about it.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was a weird thing to do, because I usually do that too, where I get the information, but then I feel the need to get that confirmation from at least one other person. So that's probably
I often find that with like big thing, whether travel or otherwise, if there's like a lot on the line, or there's maybe an ambiguous policy, I always like to get it. Like, it's the old journalist thing, you want to get 2 independent sources to confirm something. You don't want to just take it from one person's word. You want to get multiple sources to confirm it before you feel good about it.
Yeah, I also can't believe that your daughter's over 2 years old now.
Oh man,
you're getting old.
Crazy.
Next question comes from Savannah. Savannah asks, do you think hotel prices will start going back up as well now that vaccines are being distributed?
I do. And in part because they really couldn't have gone any lower. If you looked at some of the Vegas hotel prices, I remember looking at this in like November and December, and they were literally $10 a night. Like you could go stay at like the Luxor or I don't know, the Wynn or whatever else in Vegas for like $10 a night. It was crazy. So I think partly it's like when you bottomed out, there's nowhere to go but up. But I think it's also just a reflection of the fact that the pricing dynamics of hotels is actually, we think of hotels and flights as basically the same thing because when you travel, you need a flight and you need a hotel. So we associate them very similarly in our minds. But the actual dynamics behind it is far, far different from an industry standpoint. I'm not going to bore folks with like exactly all the ways that hotel and airfare pricing is different, but I would anticipate that as more and more people are traveling and booking hotel rooms again, which is already happening in the data. We're already seeing it both for forward looking flight searches for current travelers today. The past 6 days, there have been over 1 million travelers through TSA every single day. This is the first time it's happened since the pandemic. We've been setting new records every just last week since the pandemic began. The number of flight searches is going way up and to the right. I took a look, actually, the number of flight searches last week to Cancun and Maui were higher than the number of flight searches to those places in March of 2019. People are excited to travel again. Like people are really eager and excited to be booking those flights to make those travel plans. And I think you're going to see hotel prices start to go back up as a result. And that's one of the reasons why it's good, for instance, with hotels, they generally have more flexibility than flights to begin with. So you can actually lock in a lot of refundable rates where you can say, okay, I think I want to take a trip, let's say to Maui in August 6th through 13th. I'm going to go ahead and book my hotel there right now, but I'm going to make sure I book the refundable rate, which is usually maybe like just a few bucks higher than the cheapest rate. And that way I've got it locked in. It's not going to go any higher and I can cancel it, and get my money back, or basically you never have to have paid in the first place. Usually you just pay when you show up. Make sure if you're going to do that, that you read the fine print, make sure you're not accidentally paying ahead of time or anything like that. But if I'm booking a trip later this year, as I'm currently booking very many, I'm starting to book those hotels now because I don't want to get caught booking them, in May or June and the prices are way higher.
Tara says, let's go Rip City.
Yeah. Blazers, baby. Let's go. Man, that game last night was something. Dame Dalla, my guy.
I mean, the only word is clutch, I guess. There's really not many other words that come to mind.
But. Folks might not know this. Damian Lillard, star hero of Portland, are given the key to the city. He recorded at least one rap album, if not multiple, over the off season. And wouldn't you know, he recorded his album in the very same studio that yours truly recorded the audiobook for Take More Vacations. I'd like to think, that I was channeling his energy, really being clutch in that recording, doing my best to, really enunciate those T's and those S's. But maybe I also gave him a little bit of that, clutch under pressure. Yep. I don't want to take credit for every three-pointer he hits, but I think, it'd be fair to at least give a little bit of credit where it's due.
I mean, you have to be humble. I'd say 80% of the threes you can take credit for. Like, let's not go 90, 100.
Yeah, I mean, he hits like 10 threes a game. So look, if you give me credit for like one of those, I'm not gonna say no. I don't deserve credit for all 10 though. Let's draw the line there.
Yeah. Also, I think that means, you recording in the same spot that he does, that you're as famous as him. I think that's the equal comparison there.
Well, not only game. I actually did the touch. So the audiobook recording process, you go in studio, you record like 10 hours a day for 4 days straight, tired, exhausted. And then like a month or two later, you go in again to do what's called touch-ups. So anytime, I garbled a sentence or this or that, you go and re-record that. And it was actually in a different studio the second time. And wouldn't you know who recorded in this second studio? None other than Lady Gaga. Just me and Lady Gaga recording in the same studio. Look, I don't want to claim. You
got to be humble. You got to be humble. Yeah.
All I'm saying is the facts are the facts. We're recording in the same studio. It's just Scott and Lady Gaga laying down tracks.
Yeah, and I think to find out how clutch you were in your audiobook, there's only one way to find out. People need to check out the audiobook.
It's available for pre-order right now, y'all. It's coming out May 11th. Take more vacations. But the great thing about it, and why I would really recommend your pre-order, is the tips that I have in there are going to help you be able to get those cheap flights for this summer already. If you wait to book your flights until May, there may not be any cheap summer flights left. But if you are able to kind of put those ideas and strategies and thoughts and approaches into practice that I have in the book, then you're going to be able to get those cheap summer flights and do so now while they're still available, rather than, later when you're just hoping on a wing and a prayer that they pop up.
All right. 2 more questions, Scott?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. One from a YouTube viewer, and I'd like to think that this is the real Andrew Luck, just sitting there at his computer watching a YouTube live of us talking. So that's how I'm going to go. He asked, what's the best time to visit Florida?
The best time to visit Florida is the winter, January through March. Weather's hot everywhere else. It's manageable in Florida. The beaches are great. You're not in hurricane season. I think it's actually one of the high seasons there. That's my own personal favorite. Look, I had a grandma who used to have an apartment down in West Palm Beach, as so many New York grandmas do. So that's when I would always go visit. I had a blast there. I've been there in the summer. It is really hot. I don't like it. I like to go in there in the winter. While we're on the subject of Andrew Luck, fun fact, I actually played against him in intramural soccer back in college. Really good soccer player. Very, very good. If maybe I like to think maybe he retired from the NFL because he's trying to transition over to Major League Soccer. Listen, I would sign him. If he wants to come play for the Timbers, let's go.
There you go. I had another thought there, but you're Andrew. Oh, Florida. We're talking about Florida. My thoughts there, definitely. I usually try to avoid June through November. I think that's around hurricane season, if I'm able to, of course. And then I think it depends on where to go. I do enjoy going in that March to maybe early April time, but that's because I mainly go to the non-spring break areas. So that's also something to think about, that Florida is obviously a huge spring break.
Julian, you're not going down to Panama City, hitting the beer barns and whatnot?
Oh, no. I don't know. Might be getting a little old for that. That might be it. But so I would also take that into account of if that is your scene, that's the place to go. That's the time to go. If it's not, make sure to keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely.
And then final question, Scott. This is a fun one. And this is a tough one for me, but maybe for a different reason. So Ali Reza asks, if each of you could give us a travel hack that you never told anyone before. And the reason why that's hard for me is because I feel like I'm extremely open about anything travel related. So I feel like I've said everything, but I don't know. Scott, what do you have?
Never. Yeah. I mean, the never told anyone is a difficult.
Yeah. Throws you off.
It throws you off a little bit. One of the more interesting, shall we say, travel hacks that I've found out recently is that, there's a whole new world of travel hacks if you're traveling with a child, because they afford all sort, you get to, for instance, even if you're traveling basic economy and you usually have to pay an arm and a leg to check your bags, you're actually allowed to check in a car seat for free. And you are allowed to put that car seat in an oversized, essentially like an oversized carrier bag. This oversized carrier bag, let's just say, has a lot of dead space where the child might usually sit in the car seat.
Yeah.
That might actually fit really well. A duffel bag, a suitcase, maybe a large backpack, that, look, just so happy. Oh yeah, it's just a heavy car seat, just chilling in the carrier bag. That was one of my own little kind of personal travel hacks. Obviously, only applying if you've got young kids in tow. And I actually got caught doing this once. They're like, "You can't do that," and I was like, "Sorry, I didn't know." But no, I mean, it was that was the one that came to mind for me. Anything for you, Julian?
I mean, nothing really. I guess the only thing that comes to mind, and this isn't even really a travel hack, but just a YouTube recommendation. Weirdly enough, I'm a huge, I love food and I travel a lot, mainly for food. So a lot of the times I actually plan my days or plan my visits around like what food places I want to go to or where I want to eat. And I'm a big fan of some of the bigger YouTube food vloggers out there. So like Food Ranger, Mark Weens, is that his name? So if you're big into food and I even on their website, they have like city guides. So you can pick where you want to go. You can map it out and then figure out your itinerary that way. So very food specific, but.
No, relatedly, someone who really enjoys food as well, but also especially when I'm visiting somewhere, I like to kind of get off the beaten path, visit, or in Tokyo, going to like the Parasite Museum, or going to South Korea, go to the Kimchi Museum or stuff like that. Stuff that's not necessarily super well known, but to me is like the more interesting parts of it. Not like 9 times out of 10 where I'm getting the ideas for places to visit that are off the beaten path is from one place, and it's Atlas Obscura. It's a great website, just a great like collection of interesting, offbeat, random spots around the world, easily searchable, very easy to kind of figure out some of those just sort of hidden nooks and crannies. It's not visit the Eiffel Tower, visit the Colosseum, this and that. It's the sort of hidden alley, back spots, all that. And they have a sister site, Gastro Obscura, for those good food recommendations. So those are my personal recommendations. I love Atlas Obscura. I use them all the time. Shout out to their coffee table book, especially. Very, very a great book. If you're going to be buying any other book this year besides Take More Vacations, make it Atlas Obscura. I can endorse that as long as it's the second book that you. Anyway, yeah. I kid, I jest. Thank you all so much for the great questions. Thank you for being here. Thanks for your positivity. I love you all so much, and I love being able to come celebrate exciting news here. I love being able to come here and commiserate when there's frustrating news, when TAP are being jerks and not giving those refunds, or when there's great news to travel to Iceland. I like being able to share it with you all. So thank you. Hats off, digital hat off. Round of applause for Julian as always. And we'll be back probably this time next week. So,
yep.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.